My stepdaughter held up her hand and said, "Don't speak on my life. You're not part of it." So I removed the vanity mirror I installed, unplugged the lights she drained daily, and returned everything to the store credit in my name. Stopped funding the influencer dream she was building on my dime. That was just the start of teaching her that when you tell someone they don't matter, you don't get to keep the things that only exist because they did. My name is James. I'm 41, and I work as a project manager for a commercial construction company. I'm not rich, but I'm steady, bills paid, credit clean, savings growing. I'm the guy who reads contracts before signing and only buys the extended warranty when it makes sense. 5 years ago, I married my wife, Renee. She had a daughter from her first marriage, Kayla, who was 16 at the time. Kayla's biological father, Marcus, was the kind of guy who could promise the moon and forget to show up for the school play. He saw her maybe 3 times a year and sent child support whenever he felt like it. By the time I came into their lives, Renee was exhausted from years of patching holes, emotionally and financially. I never tried to replace Marcus. I never said, "Call me Dad." I just showed up. School forms? I signed them. Broken toilet at midnight? I fixed it. When Kayla needed a ride and Renee was working late, I went. Little stuff. Normal stuff. The kind that quietly becomes your life when you mean it. For a while, it worked. Kayla didn't adore me, but she softened. She'd ask me to taste test her cooking experiments. She'd text me things like, "Mom's in a mood," which in teenage language basically means help. We weren't father-daughter, but we were something. Then she turned 18 and graduated from high school. She decided to take a gap year, which turned into living at home rent-free while working part-time at a coffee shop and treating the house like her personal studio apartment. She got into beauty content, makeup tutorials, skincare routines, and get ready with me videos. She wasn't bad at it. She had camera confidence that made people lean in. And the more attention she got online, the more she started treating real life like an inconvenience between posts. She wanted her room to look like those influencer bedrooms, with LED lights, ring lights, a vanity setup, the works. She showed Renee a whole Pinterest board, and Renee got excited because she loves seeing her daughter passionate about something. One night after dinner, Renee asked me softly, could we help her set it up? Just the basics. It might keep her focused. I build things for a living. A vanity mirror isn't complicated. I told Kayla that if she picked what she wanted, I'd help install it. I said it clearly. I'll help with labor and setup. The purchases we'll budget together. Kayla smiled like she was doing me a favor. Cool. Not, thank you. Just cool. The next day, she sent me links. Not 1 or 2, 12. A mirror with built-in bulbs, floating shelves, LED panels, a ring light that looked like it belonged in a photography studio. The prices made my stomach turn. I told her we could start with a mirror and basic lighting, then upgrade later. That's when she got manipulative. Mom said you'd do it. Mom said you'd support me. I didn't want to crush her dream, so I compromised. I bought a decent vanity mirror with built-in bulbs, $300, and I installed it properly, mounted it, anchored it, ran the cables neatly, and even installed a surge-protected power strip. I told her, if you're going to do this, do it safely. Renee was happy. Kayla was happy for about 10 minutes. Then she said, the lighting still isn't right. I need the LED panels too. I said, Kayla, try the mirror for a week first. She rolled her eyes. You don't get it. And there it was, that feeling of being reduced to the guy who doesn't get it, while I'm literally building the platform she's standing on. Within a month, that mirror became her entire world. She'd sit there for hours, lights blazing until 2 a.m. Sometimes she'd fall asleep with everything on. Our electric bill didn't creep up. It jumped, $80 in 1 month. I brought it up gently. Hey, we need to be mindful. The electric bill spiked. Kayla didn't even look up from her phone. That's not my problem. I blinked. Excuse me? I didn't ask to be here. If you want to talk bills, talk to my mom. Renee tried to smooth it over. Kayla, that's rude. Kayla cut her off. No, Mom. I'm tired of him acting like he controls things. He's not my dad. There it was. Not screamed. Just delivered like a fact. I felt my chest tighten. I don't need worship, but I do need basic respect in a house I pay for. And here's what nobody tells you about step-parenting. You can pour years into a kid and still be treated like temporary furniture when it's convenient. I let it go that night. Went to bed with my jaw clenched. A week later, Kayla had friends over to film content. I came home from work and heard them in her room, laughing, music playing, those little bursts of squealing you hear during reaction clips. Then I heard my name. Not my stepdad. My full name, like a punchline. One girl said, "Wait, he actually bought you that mirror?" Kayla laughed. Loud, performative. "Yeah, he thinks he's part of the family. It's adorable." Another voice. "Does he try to tell you what to do?" Kayla. "All the time. Like he talks about bills and responsibility like I'm 8. I'm literally an adult." Then she said it, clear as day. "Don't speak on my life. You're not part of it." Her friends erupted. Big laughter. And I stood in the hallway with my work bag still on my shoulder, staring at the wall. For about 10 seconds I wanted to burst in and embarrass her in front of her friends. But I didn't. Because that's what she wanted. To make me the villain in her story. The controlling stepdad she could post about for engagement. So I walked downstairs and I started planning. Not a dramatic movie revenge. Just calm, lawful consequences. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app. I listed everything in her room that I'd paid for. The mirror, the bulbs, the power strip, the LED strips Renee had asked me to buy just to help her mood, even the extension cord. All were purchased with my money, all in my name. I realized something that made my stomach cold. Kayla was treating my generosity like permanent entitlement. And if I didn't draw a line now, I was teaching her that disrespect has no cost. The next morning, Renee was at work. Kayla was still asleep, of course she was. I went into the garage, grabbed my drill and a small toolbox, and walked upstairs. I knocked once on her door, not for permission, just to be decent. No answer. I opened it and saw her passed out, makeup smudged, vanity light still blazing like a stage set. I walked to the outlet and unplugged everything. The room instantly felt calmer. Then I carefully unscrewed the mirror from the wall. I didn't damage anything. I took it down clean, wrapped it in the original packaging, because yes, I kept it, and carried it out. I removed the LED strips, the ring light, the spare bulbs, the power strip. Anything that existed because I'd provided it, I removed. When I finished, her room looked normal again, just a bedroom. I left a note on her desk. "Since I'm not part of your life, I'm no longer funding the parts that depend on me. Items purchased in my name have been removed." Then I loaded everything into my truck and drove to the store. I had receipts, I had a return window. I walked in with a cart and the calm of a man who'd finally accepted that boundaries require action. The cashier scanned each item, the mirror, the LED strips, the ring light. "Store credit or original payment?" she asked. "Store credit," I said. When I got home, I tucked the store credit receipt into my wallet, not as money, as proof that I could remove myself from a situation without begging for appreciation. By the time Kayla woke up, she screamed. Not a normal "where's my stuff" scream. A wounded animal scream. "What did you do?" she yelled, stomping downstairs in pajamas, phone in hand like she was ready to record. Renee came out of the kitchen, confused. "Kayla, what's wrong?" Kayla pointed at me like I was on trial. "He took my mirror. He took everything." I didn't raise my voice. "I removed the items I purchased. They were in my name." Kayla's eyes went wide. "You can't do that." "I can," I said. And I did. Renee looked at me like she wanted to believe there was a misunderstanding. "James, why would you?" I cut in gently but firmly. "Because I'm apparently not part of her life." That's what she said yesterday. With her friends. I heard her. Kayla's face changed. Her mouth opened, then closed. For a split second I saw panic. Then she snapped back into performance mode. "I didn't mean it like that," she said, voice suddenly sweeter, like she was adjusting her tone mid-sentence. "You're being dramatic." Renee tried to mediate. "Kayla, apologize." Kayla threw her hands up. "For what? He's overstepping. This is controlling." And there it was, the modern language of control, weaponized to excuse basic irresponsibility. The second you set a boundary, you're toxic. The second you stop paying, you're abusive. I looked at Renee. I'm not arguing. I'm just making my support match my role. Kayla hissed, "You're petty." I smiled once, tired. No. Petty would be keeping the stuff and still demanding respect. I'm aligning reality. Then I left for work. My phone buzzed all day with Renee's texts. "Can we talk tonight? She's upset." "You embarrassed her." Embarrassed. Like consequences are humiliation. When I came home that evening, Kayla was on the couch, arms crossed. Renee was in the kitchen looking stressed. Renee said, "We need to talk about this." I sat down and explained calmly. I told her what I'd heard, word for word. I didn't exaggerate. I said, "She told her friends I'm not part of her life." She said it like a joke. Renee's face tightened. Kayla rolled her eyes. "Are we really doing this?" I turned to her. "Yes, because you're an adult now, and adults learn a basic rule. If you tell someone they're not part of your life, you don't get to keep the benefits of their life." Kayla scoffed. "It's just a mirror." I nodded. "It is. And you made it a symbol. You treated me like a wallet. That stops now." She stood up, voice rising. "You're not my dad. You're just Mom's husband." Renee flinched but didn't stop her. I said, "You're right. I'm not your biological father, but I've been an adult in your life who's provided stability. If you want me to be just Mom's husband, fine, but you don't get to treat my paycheck like a family benefit package." Kayla laughed bitterly. "So what, you're going to kick me out? That's insane." "No," I said. "I'm not doing drama. I'm doing consequences." Then I pulled out a printed sheet, because yes, I printed it. I wanted it to feel real. It listed everything I currently pay for that supported Kayla's lifestyle. Her phone line on my plan, car insurance, streaming subscriptions, and the extra data package. Renee stared at it. Kayla looked at it like it was a threat. I said, "I'm not cutting essentials, but I'm ending extras that are treated like entitlements." Kayla's voice went sharp. "My phone is essential." "The phone itself, yes," I replied. "Unlimited data and premium features? No. You can move to a prepaid plan. Adults do it every day." Renee's eyes widened. "James, maybe this is too much." I looked at her and said what I should have said months ago. What's too much is letting her disrespect me while I fund her life. You want her to grow up? This is how. Kayla stormed to her room and slammed the door. Over the next week, consequences rolled out. First, the lights. Without the vanity setup, she couldn't film the way she wanted. She tried using the overhead light, too harsh. She tried the window, too many shadows. She sat at the kitchen table, grumbling as the world had betrayed her. Then the phone. I moved her line off my plan and transferred it to Renee's responsibility. I didn't cancel it, just removed myself from the equation. Renee didn't like it, but she couldn't argue the logic without admitting Kayla's behavior was wrong. That night, Kayla posted on TikTok. I found out because Renee's sister sent a screenshot. Kayla was on camera, perfect borrowed lighting, lip gloss fresh, playing victim. She didn't say my name. She didn't have to. Imagine living with a man who thinks because he pays bills, he owns you. Like, sir, you're not even family. The comments were predictable. Move out. He's controlling. Men are threatened by independent women. Renee showed me, ashamed. She didn't mean it. I said, "She's recruiting strangers to validate disrespect." But here's what Kayla didn't expect. Consequences don't just happen at home. 2 days later, she came home from her coffee shop job looking rattled. She went straight to her room without a word. I asked Renee what happened. Renee hesitated. One of her coworkers saw the TikTok, asked her if she pays rent. When Kayla said no, the girl said, "Then maybe he has a point." Suddenly, the online validation didn't feel as good when real people who had to pay their own bills, called her out. A week after that, Kayla came to me while I was fixing something in the garage. She stood awkwardly in the doorway, like someone trying to remember how to be humble. "I'm sorry," she said quickly as the words hurt. I kept working, not to punish her, but to avoid making it a performance. She added, "About what I said. About all of it." I put down my wrench and looked at her. "Do you understand why it mattered?" She nodded. I made you feel like you didn't belong, while you were doing everything. And you used me, I said, like I was a resource, not a person. She flinched. Yeah. There was a long pause. Then she said something that surprised me. I think I was mad at my dad, but it was easier to take it out on you, because you'd still be here. That hit harder than her insults, because it sounded true. Marcus was the ghost she kept hoping would become real, and I was the living person she could safely punish. I said, that might be true, but you don't get to heal one wound by creating another. She nodded. I know. We didn't hug. We didn't have a movie moment. But something shifted. Over the next month, Kayla started paying for her own extras. She moved her subscriptions to her own prepaid card. She stopped leaving lights on. She got quieter, not sulky, just more aware. The electric bill dropped back to normal. One day, she asked if I'd help her film something, a rebuilding my setup on a budget video. I said I'd think about it. The next week, Marcus called, said he wanted to help Kayla buy a new camera for her content. She got excited. He promised he'd send money by Friday. Friday came and went. No money, no call. I heard her crying quietly in her room that night. Not loud, just that quiet, embarrassed kind of crying when someone finally accepts a truth they've been avoiding. I didn't knock, but I left a note on the kitchen counter the next morning. Breakfast is in the fridge. You're allowed to be disappointed. But don't let disappointment turn you into someone you don't respect. She never mentioned the note. But later that week, I found it folded up in her desk drawer when I was helping her move furniture. 3 months after the mirror incident, Kayla asked if she could borrow my drill for a project. She actually asked. She explained what she needed it for. She returned it the same day, in perfect condition, with a fully charged battery. Small things, but they mattered. So here's what I learned through all of this. Respect isn't something you earn by overgiving. If someone benefits from treating you badly, they'll keep doing it until it costs them. Boundaries aren't cruelty, they're clarity. And sometimes the most effective response to disrespect isn't anger. It's just stopping the funding and letting reality teach the lesson you couldn't. I also learned this. Step parenting is a gamble. You pour in effort with no guarantee of return. But if you allow yourself to be treated as disposable while you're still writing the checks, you're not being patient. You're being used. Now I want to hear from you. Was I wrong for removing that mirror and cutting off the extras? Would you have done the same thing, or would you have handled it differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments, especially if you've dealt with stepkids or family members who treated your generosity like it was owed to them. And if this story hit home, if you felt any of what I felt, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and keep bringing you stories about what happens when boundaries finally get enforced.